I just got the hospital bill. Please hold. Let's see how much it costs. I have the breakdown on my computer. So I vaginally delivered him and I was induced. And yes, I got the epidural. Whew, amazing. Oh my gosh. The first thing is the labor room / delivery room. $13,900. Ouch. I got another bill that says room and board semi-private. That was $19,111. Next charge is anesthesia, $2,181. Pharmacy, $1,291.33. Other diagnostic services, that was $1,001. What is that? Please explain. The laboratory was $862, and then I got a charge for the emergency room, which was $411. So all those together, $38,757.33. That hurt more than the contractions. Thank God for insurance. They covered a lot of it. My amount due is only $1,418.26. Whew! I'm not done. I have like 3 more charges. Next bill is from US Anesthesia, and they charged me $13.56 But after insurance, that was only $135.67. My last 2 charges is vaginal delivery postpartum care, and that was $6,793. Ooh! The last final charge was the cervical dilator, which is the balloon that they put up there to induce my labor. That was $385. After insurance, $651.16. We love insurance. Okay, want to know the final total? In total, it cost me $47,292.01 to have a baby. But after insurance, I only had to pay $2,205.09. Wow, thank you.
Yeah, no, actually, I have 4 kids.
Damn.
Let's take a look at the hospital bill where I gave birth to my son on the unit where I work as a labor and delivery nurse. I was in the hospital a total of about 36 hours, a vaginal, uncomplicated, no epidural birth, $10,613. I walked onto my unit at 9 p.m. I was in active labor, and at 1:45 a.m. I gave birth to my son, so it was not quite 5 hours. Down there, the labor room / delivery, that's what I was charged to physically be in that labor and delivery room. The vaginal / delivery, that was the services that my midwife and my nurse provided during my labor, during my birth, and during the postpartum recovery. They drew lab work, were routine, basic, like minimum stuff. That cost was $600 for that lab work. You'll see that there is a charge for a SARS-CoV-2 swab. We offer nitrous oxide, which is laughing gas. So I like to use nitrous oxide when I'm giving birth. Where I work, the patient has to have a negative COVID swab during their admission to use the nitrous oxide. So that's that $84 COVID swab for like swabs I get free in the mail. This is the pharmacy bill for every single medication that was administered to me from when I walked into the door to when I was discharged. I had group B strep during my pregnancy, which is a common thing. I needed to be treated prophylactically with antibiotics through an IV site. I was treated with penicillin, but our penicillin is in a powdered form. You need to attach it and mix it to a bag of saline. There where it says sodium chloride, 0.9% Bell bag. That was a charge for the bag of saline in addition to the charge of the medication. When I arrived at the hospital, I was 5 centimeters and I could get a dose of IV pain medication. I also got that with Zofran for nausea, and that was about $23 for the 2 of them. Down here, the lactated ringer solution, that's $40, and that was just a bag of IV fluid that wasn't even running the entire time. They just needed it to mix with another medication. I had more bleeding than expected. I had about half a liter of blood loss. I got 2 bags of the Pitocin, I got a shot in my leg, and I got something through my IV called TXA to help with my bleeding because I was bleeding a little heavier than I should have been at that point, but it wasn't a huge postpartum hemorrhage. So then by 4 or 5 in the morning, I was taken over to the postpartum unit. Now, while you're on the postpartum unit, I continue to offer and bring you Tylenol, ibuprofen, or naproxen in my case, like on a schedule. Sometimes I declined them and sometimes I took them. The benzocaine menthol, that's something called Dermaplast spray. It is a can of numbing agent spray that you would spray on your perineum. I didn't even ask for it. My nurse was being sweet and dropped a can off for me. You can get that on Amazon or Walmart for like $6, and it is charged $40 in the hospital setting. And down here, it says room and board, semi-private. The price for the bed for 1 day, $2,674. And these were private. They weren't shared rooms. So I got there early that morning. I spent the night there and then went home the following day just after lunchtime. Was still charged $2,674 because they charge you for the whole day. Even if you meet the deductible, my insurance only covers 80% of it. Also keeping in mind that my son is his own person now. He is a billable patient. So he was sent his own hospital bill. He has his own deductible to meet on top of all of this. Another thing to keep in mind is, again, I work there. These services, these charges, like nurses are paid an hourly rate. I get paid the same hourly rate no matter how expensive or cheap a person's admission is. The same thing for the doctors and the midwives. It's a salary. Whatever that they're charging for these services, we're not seeing a penny of it. So I'm just saying.
Do you ever wonder about other people's finances, and not in like a judgmental way, but just like in a super...
Literally all the time, for anyone who has a child. I don't care how much money you make. I do not care. I don't understand how you afford a kid in today's economy. I literally do not get it. I cannot comprehend how any couple, person, individual, duology, triology, I don't understand how adults afford children. Like, you're telling me you're sending them like to doctors. Going to the doctor is so expensive, and kids do it like a lot. And then like school is, I don't know, like thousands of dollars a month to send them to a daycare where they're not even actually, I don't know, do they learn at daycare? I'm not really sure, but like they go to daycare just to like be daycared while you go to work to pay for daycare. But like, then there's like food that they just throw on the floor. Like, I don't understand.
You know how much it costs to have triplets in the United States without insurance? Listen up. James was in the NICU for 31 days. She needed a little bit of oxygen. She needed photolight therapy, and she was just there to feed and grow. She was 2 pounds, 14 ounces when she was born. They charged us $447,037.53. Polly was in the NICU for 32 days. She just needed the same things as James, except she needed a little bit more oxygen, and she needed a little bit of caffeine while she was in the NICU. They charged us $542,785.39. Baskin needed the exact same things as James, except he was in the NICU for 35 days. He just needed a little extra time. So they charged us $481,261.12. This doesn't even begin to cover my 11-day hospital stay before the babies were born.
And the hospital genuinely believe it's a reasonable price.
I'm already there. Girl, fuck them kids and fuck you too.
So what I'm not understanding is how people can afford to have children in this day and age. I'm not even kidding. I just turned 27 barely 2 weeks ago. So I know that I'm at that age where if I did have a child, it's, not unusual. And a lot of people my age are having children and getting married and affording weddings and whatever. But like, I just took my cat to the vet because I had to, and she had to get x-rays, an injection, and then the fee for the physical and medication. And I literally paid $500, like around $500. I don't even understand how I would be able to afford taking care of a human being for the rest of my life. I can't even afford myself. I literally can't even afford myself. Went to law school, cannot afford myself. I just like, I don't know how I'd be able to afford taking care of another human being, let alone one, maybe two. Everything is just too expensive these days. I don't.
Did you know it costs over $300,000 to raise a child these days? I knew it was expensive, but I never knew how expensive it really was until my wife and I got to this point where we started walking through our own family planning. So let's talk about the cost of having children, especially for us millennials. I think this would be a timely conversation here at NETMA because over 60% of the followers are over age 25, with most of which being between 25 and 34, including myself. So I think we're all kind of in a stage of life where we could consider having a family. My name is Kellen. This is NETMA, or Nobody Ever Tells Me Anything, where we discuss business, news, and current events. I struggled to believe that it really costs that much to raise a child. However, I kept finding headlines like this, so I decided to dive into the numbers. And this was one of the best breakdowns that I could find. And in this case, the total neared around that $300,000 mark. Most of those expenses are in housing, followed by food. But one of the real heavy hitters that I've heard about lately is the cost of childcare. Depending on where you live, the cost of childcare can range between 12% and 29% of your income, with Washington, D.C. coming in as the most expensive place for childcare. Yes, obviously, some of these expenses have flexibility. You can choose where you live. You can choose to live in a cheaper place. You can choose the types of food that you buy. You don't have to go to Whole Foods all the time. And you can also choose the type of education that your child gets. But as we know, education is the great equalizer. And oftentimes, parents have to choose what kind of education to buy their child. However, that's a sticky point because for many millennials, both parents are working. So it can be challenging for millennial parents to completely navigate around the childcare question. Now, if you've been paying attention to politics, some have proposed having universal childcare. Now, while that didn't get traction on a federal level, Multnomah County in Oregon has created a childcare for all program. And in this program, they're trying to bridge access to childcare with the hope of having childcare for all by 2030. Now, obviously, this costs money, and a new tax was instituted for those in the top 10% of earners in that county. And apparently, it's been successful. They generated over $68 million more than they expected to in tax revenue. It's not all doom and gloom. There are some solutions, like taking advantage of 529 plans to save for your child's college education, as well as taking advantage of the child tax credit. So despite what some of the older generations say, for the young people that choose not to have children for whatever reason, I think it's reasonable to say that they aren't crazy. They might have just run the numbers. So I'm curious, if you're a person that wants to have children, has the cost of raising them worried you at all? And how do you feel about childcare for all? Do you think that's something that would fit in the US? Do you think the culture or wealth of the parents matters? Because my parents didn't spend that much money on me. And if you live outside the US, how does childcare work in your country? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you like this sort of content, like and follow for more. And let me know what other personal finance topics you'd be interested in talking about.
The fact that daycare costs $600 to $800 a month for one child.
$600 to $800 a month. Where the hell is that deal? We pay $1,500 a month for one baby.
You know what's crazy is like the way that babies have so quietly become a luxury. Like now, it's not like whenever someone brings up that they're having a kid, it's not like, oh wow, that's amazing, congratulations. You're like, how? How the fuck are you affording this? And literally the only people that I know that are having babies, like planned babies that they wanted, are the fucking rich people. Like the rich people that I went to school with and stuff that like had their parents buy them a house and like are already married. Those are the ones who are like, yeah, we're gonna pop one out. But it is just really insidious how bringing life into this world, babies, something that should be normal and celebrated and like I said is part of the fucking human experience, are now like a luxury. And then unfortunately a lot of the other cases of people having kids, it's kind of like the people who rock Gucci bags when you know they're unemployed. You're like, damn, you can't afford that child.
I pay $60,000 a year for childcare. And that might seem insane to many people. But here in the US, childcare is not only inaccessible, meaning very hard to come by, but also unaffordable for so many. I am obviously in a place of privilege where I can afford this, and I see an upside to having my children in childcare. But the reality for most Americans, and especially American women, because we are the ones who are looking for and financing most childcare efforts, is that it's just out of reach. And so for some context, because I think people are always shocked by the numbers, for one infant to go to daycare at my childcare center, which is a town-based recreation department childcare center, it is $23,000 a year. That's for one child to go to daycare. That alone is staggering. That number is just so large, and so many people cannot afford that. And are there alternatives? Are there home daycares? Are there nannies? Are there nanny shares? Yes. But those are also pretty expensive and very, very hard to come by. My infant baby never even got to go to daycare. She is turning 1 this month, and they still do not have room for her. She will not be in childcare until she's almost 2 years old, because that is how long the wait lists are. The wait list can be 1-2 years, depending on where you live and the access that you have to childcare. Because since COVID, so many daycare centers and nannies have left the industry. Our childcare center is struggling to find and keep teachers because they are not paid enough, and there is no more government support to help them sustain in this economy. And I think so many people look to mothers often and say it's so selfish to continue your career and to put your kids into daycare. When in reality, our country, our economy needs childcare centers so that way we can function as a society, right? We need dual income homes, not just to be able to afford life, which is true, but also to keep our world going around. Our economy relies on all of these people working. And now people are leaving the workforce because they cannot find childcare. And this is hurting women. This is not hurting most men. This is hurting women more than anyone, and it's hurting our children. And often we also forget that women are the ones providing care in daycare centers and as nannies. In all of those scenarios, it's almost always women. And so this problem, and the reason probably that it's ignored so much, is because it only impacts women and children. And it's crucial. I don't know how else to say it, but it is crucial that there is support here so that women